What's this? What's this? There's 3 vids in a row. What's this? I don't know where to go with the rest of this song. But seriously, folks, is it Christmas? Probably not, because I don't post regularly then either. But self-deprecating jokes aside, let's get into today's video. If you read the title, or saw the thumbnail, or watched the end of last week's video, you've probably guessed that I'm doing some Sandersides fan art today. Potential spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen it. Sandersides is not my video. What am I doing with my life? Specifically, I'm doing a watercolor painting of the puppet version of Anxiety, aka Virgil. Originally, I was just going to do a regular painting, but then I decided to make something I'll actually use in the future, and that is a bookmark. Luckily, since he's a puppet, the drawing itself was not particularly difficult to do in comparison to other things. The most tricky part was probably the hair, because it's made of yarn and has more detail than the rest of him, kinda. But that actually made it acceptable for it to not look like actual hair, and as we all know, drawing realistic hair is what you have to do in the 5th circle of hell. I had a ton of fun painting this as well. I basically just played around making different shades of purple and blue for his hair, and then I chose the most accurate ones for his hoodie. I initially thought that painting the black parts of his hoodie would be difficult, because it's all black, obviously, and that can be hard, yeah. But I ended up not having much of a problem with that. At first, I tried to do like the layers upon layers approach to avoid making parts of it too dark, but I pretty quickly found that it was much easier and more effective to put down completely black paint where the black was darkest in the reference photo, and then blend outward. In fact, a piece of advice that my art teachers have often given, and something that I've been noticing more and more, is that a lot of novice artists tend to be afraid of making their art too dark because they don't want to make a mistake that's difficult or practically impossible to take back. I think this is possibly especially true with watercolor paint and pencil art. At least, like, that's when it's where I've noticed it the most. The problem with this is that it can make your art too low contrast, which can take away from the realism and overall appeal of the piece. And I don't just mean in realistic art. This can also apply to cartoon art. I know that looking back on a lot of my anime/cartoon art that I drew in like grade 7 and 8, mostly in pencil, that one of the biggest problems with it is that the shadows and areas that are supposed to be dark are not nearly dark enough to be communicated properly. A couple of times while I was painting the hoodie, I actually just took some watered down black and put a layer of that paint over the entire sweater to darken the entire thing. I found that technique was quite helpful. Another technique I used was for the background. When I was painting the first layer, I made the paper really wet and then put the paint on top of it. I don't know if this is a technique professionals would recommend. Like, I don't actually know if it's a good technique to be using, but I've personally found it's really useful for when you need the paint over a large surface area and you want to avoid getting streaks all over your page. It's also it makes it easier to move the paint around. And I also used that same technique to get that sort of marble texture. Is texture right? Whatever that I put in. Then, of course, I I wrote the words with mostly alcohol-based markers. A few of them I did with Sharpies. I don't have alcohol-based markers with that micro felt tip or whatever you call it. So micro tip Sharpies had to do, but they actually worked pretty well for this particular thing that I was doing. I was worried that the color of both types of marker wouldn't show up over the watercolor very well. But although they were a little bit dulled or darkened down, I think they actually came across rather well. And of course, it was not hard to pick a quote to put on my bookmark. And there we have the final product. Overall, this bookmark took me around an hour and a half to make, not including drying time. I used a hairdryer to speed up the drying process for most of the painting, but I couldn't use it to dry the marbled paint because it would have ruined the pattern. And that obviously took the longest to dry because it was so wet. And that's it for this video. If you want to see more of my art or watch me draw live, follow me on Instagram at cartoon_hippie. If you're interested in commissioning me, want to collab, want a question featured in a video, or just want to say hi, DM my Instagram or email me at cartoonhippie@gmail.com. My next video will likely be me using like all of one of my colors, you know that challenge. In the future, I'm probably going to be working on some more challenges and commissions and whatnot, but I would also love some suggestions, so let me know what you want to see in the comments below. I actually will do what you want if you suggest something. If any of that interests you, make sure to subscribe and hit the alarm bell so you don't miss my future videos. I'll see you later. Also, just a quick note. I just finished recording, and the fact that this video is over 5 minutes long makes me so happy. I could like cry tears of joy. So yeah, bye for real now.